Greetings and welcome to Connecting with Intent Show. I'm your host Muhammad Wes. On this episode, we have a very special guest. He's transition coach, speaker, trainer, and president at Achieve New Heights, Don Gleason. Please join me to give a warm welcome to our guest, Don Gleason. Don, welcome.
Hey, Mohammed, thanks for the opportunity to be with you today. And I appreciate the opportunity to talk as well about what I do and what's kind of inspired me. So this is going to be a great conversation.
Let me start with this. Where were you? What happened? Who were you surrounded with that inspired you to do what you do today?
Yeah, that's a good one, right? And it kind of comes in two parts because when I was in the fifth grade, I got inspired to be an environmental engineer. It was the first Earth Day in the United States. And that inspired me to clean America's waters, right? My dad would take us fishing, and you'd see the pollution on the river back in the late 60s and dead fish and the smell. And it got me to be an environmental engineer. And in 1982, when I graduated college, there was no jobs, that we were in a recession. So I joined the U.S. Air Force, and I got some opportunities to do a great job, to really work on documenting uh, spills, hazardous waste sites, hazardous material sites, fuel tanks, and to do all that environmental things. And that led me into leading teams. So I remember I started that in 1984 when I was got to lead deployable teams, and but it wasn't until about 2001, just after 9/11, that I got to deploy and lead teams. And that's when I really learned that I love le- leading teams and helping people find out who they are, and being that supervisor who motivated their team to step forward. And I started to developing coaching questions and ways to help people. One of the areas was airmen would come to me for endorsements to go to officer training school, right, in the U.S. Air Force. And I was 100% successful getting people to become officers. And that was really exciting. So it was during those years that I was leading teams in the U.S. Air Force that really helped me focus on helping people. But it wasn't in 2000 until 2015 when I joined the John Maxwell team that I really started perfecting that craft of coaching questions, how to really, in a structured way, help people through coaching. Mhm.
What is your higher purpose in life?
Yeah, today it's to help people who are searching for a job find that job that really energizes them so that they can have the life that fulfills them. And let's break that down for a second. Energizes, right? We talk a lot about working in the job that's your passion, it's your purpose, it's your mission. And those are all good. And I explore each of those when I do different digital courses and talking and speaking and stuff like that. But energize is that special feeling that when you wake up in the morning, you want to go to work. You can't wait to get in. You can't wait to tackle that task, right? There's no apprehension. You're not pushing it off. We all face things in jobs where it's like, oh, that's not my skill. I know I got to do it, but I just don't want to do it. And sometimes you can work through a small number of those, but if your whole job is that way, then you don't want to go to work. And and you want to get home. You're watching the clock and you want to get out of there as soon as you can, maybe earlier. I've been places where people are leaving 5 minutes early, 10 minutes early, 30 minutes early, right? They can't wait to leave. Their lunches go from an hour to an hour and a half because they don't want to go back. But I want to help people get that job where they want to go to work. They want to attack the task. They want to come back from lunch early because there's so much more to do. And they leave energized because I got to do this. And I find that when you do that, then you go home with energy and you're better engaged with your spouse, with your friends, with your kids, with your church, and you just become a joy to be around. So, a job that energizes people so that they live a life that fulfills them.
What have been top three greatest challenges that you have had to overcome?
Yeah, challenges. Number one, me, right? John Maxwell says you can't give what you don't have. And I haven't always been the most, number one is probably the most, um, let me go approach it the other way around. I get distracted easy and I procrastinate. and probably procrastinate because of that, not doing something that I really enjoy, right? Or it's easy to stay on a task that's easy versus doing the one that's hard. So that's probably the biggest thing is me focusing on how I approach tasks, right? So I'm not a procrastinator. I don't allow myself to get distracted. Second is that time management. Again, me, right? Um, how long is it going to take me to do those tasks? What's the priority of those tasks? How do I schedule those? Take for this morning, right? I had an opportunity at 8:30. I'm in the US Central Time at 8:30 to be in a group, Joint Base San Antonio Transition Alliance, working with people who help military spouses, veterans, just like I do. And I love that. Now they ended up doing it in person this meeting, and I could have gone there, but I decided not to. And at 9:30, I could have had another opportunity to meet with small business owners. And I need to do those things, but I had a greater priority today to work on some digital course material for a course that I've been wanting to launch, but I haven't been able to because I keep doing these other things, right? So that second one is time management. And I think the third one is probably relating with people, being able to read them and speak in the way that they like to be spoken to, right? I'm a DISC personality assessment consultant. And as I've got into that, I've understood myself better, but I've understood other people better, right? Because we always think about treating people the way we want to be treated. So we speak to people the way we want to be spoken to. But that doesn't mean that Muhammad, you want to be spoken to the same way I do, right? You know, you're going to be, there's D, I, S, and C, right? Some people are very direct. Some people are very influencing, relational. Some more inspiring. Some people are more relational. Some people are very analytical. So how you relate to each type of person can be drastically different to be able to connect with them. So those are probably three of the challenges that I've worked on. They've really kind of impacted me in growing the business. And I've had to, as my boss, one of my mentors says, you set up goals to be able to achieve, not just to achieve something, but to become something, to become that person worthy of having the goal.
What is your greatest failure story? What did you learn and how did you recover from it?
Yeah. I was a squadron commander in Great Falls, Montana, in the U.S. Air Force, and the first wing commander there, we connected really well. Things went great. I got nominated for some awards. I was a major command level award winner for leadership, and then he left, and a new gentleman came in, and we didn't connect. Different personalities, different priorities. Um, I was trying my best to support him, and there was a lot of ego there. And maybe I wasn't communicating the best because I always bring it back to kind of my being an SC personality, that relational. I always take that blame onto myself of how could I have had this relationship better. And I wish I would have just gone in and said, "Hey, boss, I understand where you're trying to go. I know we're not connecting so far. I want to get myself in line with you. Can we talk about some of these things so I can make sure that you know that I'm supporting you? I'm not trying to fight you, right?" And I think it impacted my endorsements. It impacted my ability to, say, make general officer in the Air Force. I still made colonel, so I was still more than happy. I'm not sure I wanted to be general at that point, and still today. But it got taken away, right? I didn't get the right endorsement, so that was the impact of it. But what I learned was not to hold thoughts to myself, to walk in and have those critical, those crucial conversations with people that are on your mind so that you can clarify what's going on and not let things fester and have a bad result. Because bad news doesn't get better with age, right? So better to address it right up front.
What is the most impactful book you have read and what did you learn from it?
Yeah, Patrick Lencioni's Five Dysfunctions of a Team. He tells a story about a young lady coming into a company who was working in the information technology sector, and they were failing. They had great people, but they were failing. And as she came into the business, she went through those five dysfunctions. And it was interesting to me to see how she related with each of the people, built the team, opened up. So the first part was a trust. You had to have vulnerability level trust. And today we're so afraid to let people know who we are and and maybe express a thought in a staff meeting. That was her thing, is we have to be able to call each other out, not personal attacks, right? There's that line where you stop at when it becomes a personal attack. But you have to be able to say, Mohammed, you said this last week, but you're saying this week that this week. I don't understand what that difference is. Can you tell me what that is? Right? And that's just opening communication. But so many people won't do that because they fear they're putting somebody on the spot, and then they'll put me on the spot, right? So you can kind of go through that book of the five dysfunctions, and I know a bunch of people who use that in their coaching sessions working with companies. I've not had that opportunity, but I've taught that book a number of times in a leadership session, and boy, people just really love it. So it's a great book.
What are your goals for the next 12 months?
I use this thing called a wheel of life. And the wheel of life has a number of different sections in it. And you can rate yourself from 0 to 10, from the inside circle out the spoke to the outside tire, right? So I look at it from a spiritual, intellectual, physical, relationship, financial. There's another one there, professional. And I've put myself some tasks in each one of those. And I'll just mention a couple of them. One is the physical. One thing I've been doing every month for the last year is 100 push-ups a day, 10,000 steps a day. So a lot of different physical. I've got into about a year ago now lifting weights and working with that to build up the muscle, keep the weight off. And my purpose for that is to be able to play with my grandkids on the floor, to maybe take them out golfing, take them frisbee golfing, just play games on the floor, wrestle with them, just because they're 11, 9, 8, and 4. So they're at that age now where it's just fun to get in. And I don't want to be that grandparent that sits on the couch and watches them and talks to them. I want to be that grandparent that gets engaged with them. Maybe go camping, teach them bird watching, and do those things. So that's my physical side. My professional side, I'm about ready to release a digital course talking about career transition and the different aspects of that, right? From understanding the mindset of why you're going into this to what you really want to do, your focus, what you really want to do for the next job, how to network to validate that and make connections to find the right people, because 85% of jobs are achieved through your network, not through just applications. And that last part is articulating your value, how to sell that you're the best candidate. And I think there's a lot to learn on how we do that. And that's my purpose, is to get that course out there and really help a lot more people than I'm doing one-on-one.
What advice you will give to younger yourself?
You know, I always ask the question, if you could go back and do high school again, would you do it? And so many people say, no, that was a terrible time. I don't want to do that. But it's always about what I know now. Could I go back? And it's what I love now is being relational, interacting with people. I was very much I don't know if I was shy or introverted. Those are different. I don't know if I feared interaction. There was probably some of that, but I was very quiet. And I didn't take the opportunity to get involved in some activities at night, some clubs. I think about being in college. I was at civil engineering, and they have this concrete canoe race. So you design a concrete canoe and then you race it on the river. And that would have been so much fun to learn about about buoyancy and air and how all that works, and get to know other people. I didn't realize how relational I was as I am today. So my advice would be to get out and meet people, step forward into those organizations, and don't be afraid.
How can we support you?
Yeah, and today what I'm trying to do is get the word out to people who want to find that next job, right? They're in a job, like we said, the job doesn't energize them, it's impacting their life. There's so many, what is it, 65% of people are disengaged. they don't really want to be at work. They don't really engage in the activities. They find ways not to do it. There's a huge like 30-40% divorce rate. There's kids are being disconnected from their parents because they've got all these different electronic toys, and parents aren't taking the opportunity. So what I want to do is find those people who are looking for that better life, that better job, and get a referral so I can work with them to help them, whether it be just, I always, whenever I'm on a session like this, I always offer a 30-minute consultation, complimentary, to talk to people about where they're at and what I can do to help them. And I will give them material. I'll do a resume review for them. I'll connect them with a few people. I'll do some stuff for them. And then there's always the opportunity for be able to do this digital course or continue forward with coaching, different ways that I can continue to help them in the future. And I think it's important that they have a what do you call it? Some money in the game, um, some stake in the claim, because they take it more seriously. When you get everything for free, people get it and they don't do anything with it. So it's important that they pay for and invest in themselves. And that's what I want to do, is help them. It's not about me; it's about them.
What would you say about your guest appearance on the show?
Oh, it's been good. These are always good questions, right? We always have to sit back and think about why we do things and what things we've learned so we can make sure we do better in the past. One of my successes in the military was I got opportunities to do the same job twice, different bases. And I would sit back and I would learn and say, that year I did this, I did that. This worked well, that didn't work well. What was around that? And then I adjusted for the next time. And every time I did that, I would become a MAJCOM, Major Command Level Award winner in the program. So it worked. So being reflective is always important, but reflection is never any good unless you act on it. It's not just good to have knowledge. As John Maxwell says, don't be a reservoir, be a river, and let it flow through you. So I think that's the experience. I love these questions.
Thank you so much for your kind words. What closing thoughts would you like to share with our listeners?
Just to get to know yourself. Too often, I think we're afraid to get to know who we really are. Personality assessments. There's so many of them. I happen to be a DISC personality assessment, but that's a good one. I like it because it resonates with people. But there's strength finders. Understand there's 34 strengths, I believe it is. What are your top 5 strengths? And so when you go into a job, try to find those jobs that leverage those strengths, right? With the DISC, you want to have a job that really resonates with your personality. Are you analytical and love that aspect? Or are you very random and kind of sporadic, but love relating with people, right? You like to be in charge? You like to be that person in the background. So get a job that fits your personality DISC, that uses your strengths, even the love languages, right? How do I like to give appreciation and get appreciation? Understand all of those. And there's more than I just mentioned. There's like 47 different assessments. You don't have to do them all, but pick a handful and get to know yourself and try to operate in that field. And if I can help you, again, that 30-minute complimentary consultation, if you want to talk about some of those, I would love it. Just tell me that, hey, we met here on this podcast. You heard me, and you'd like to take advantage of that. And I definitely would give it to you.
Thank you so much, Don, for sharing your wisdom with us today. On the behalf of Connecting with the Intent Community and our entire team, we really appreciate you.